So far as today's class is concerned, I have to discuss with you MGPE-007 Non-Violent Movements After Gandhi. This is the Gandhian Studies program. First of all, my dear students, very good afternoon to you all. Myself, Dr. Vivekananda Singh, Assistant Professor of Political Science. I have to teach you, that is MGPE 007, and the contents are, so far as Unity 1 is concerned, post-Gandhian scenario, Unit 2, leadership and organizational patterns, Unit 3, dynamics, strategies and outcomes, Unit 4, social and ecological issues, Unit 5, Bhudan movements, Unit 6, total revolution, and Unit 7, provision of movements, Unit 8, farmers movement, Unit 9, Chipko movement, and Unit 10, Narmada Banchao Andolan, that is Tehri Dam. And in Unit 11, we have to discuss regarding Silent Valley. So far as Unit 12 is concerned, that is water conservation movements, and Unit 13, civil rights movements in the United States, and Unit 14, Greenpeace movements in Europe, and Unit 15, anti-apartheid movements in South Africa. So far as last but not the least, Unit 16 is solidarity movement in Poland. So these are the contents we have to discuss in our 4 classes. So far as the chapter is concerned, this is a very important chapter. Please try to understand one thing. So far as this chapter is concerned, first of all, we have to pay our devotional tributes towards the memory of Mahatma Gandhi, Punya Sloko, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, popularly known as Bapu, the father of the nation, the supreme commander of our freedom struggles in India. For that point of view, we have to discuss that so far as the history is concerned, that our own freedom struggle, and we can take it as an important event so far as the non-violent approach as used by Mahatma Gandhi, and therefore we have to understand that perhaps no other leader in the history of the world has been such resolute and consistent with non-violent approaches as was Gandhiji. His approach retains its relevance today. And this is the most important region for which this course has been introduced, and it is a first of its kind, studying how the non-violent movements continued to constitute important phases of the history of different cultures, over the decades, and we have to make a first attempt in the entire world of knowledge. That non-violent struggle has occurred in industrialized and non-industrialized countries. It has been participated under constitutional democracies and against empire. So far as the democracies and against empires is concerned, foreign occupation and dictatorial systems. So in this way, I try to understand one thing: political, social, economic, cultural, national, ethnic, religious, or international. So far as the conflicts we find today, that some conflicts are resolved within a limited time frame, other take long. There are various factors responsible for that. There are certain limitations to resolution of the conflicts. These may be non-compliance of refusals to move away from the stand of the parties involved. So far as Jin Sarf is concerned, it is often believed that there are certain limitations to resolution of the conflicts. It is often believed that conflict must be waged in order to advance or protect freedom, justice, religions, one's own civilizations, or one's own people. Submission or compromise is the most desirable trait coming from the conflicting parties. However, the uncompromising attitude masks all prospects of resolution. Most often, the parties resort to violence as a means to resolve a conflict. A persistent question lies here. How effective can a violent means be in setting the long pending conflicts? Outcomes of such methods are often destructive. For these conflicts, untold sufferings on the innocent people, even if apparently resolved with violent means. Such outcomes are also short-lived as these run the risk of relapses. So, my dear students, please understand one thing, that non-violence is not new to history. Numerous examples may be cited from historical events which relied on non-violence as a means to resolve conflicts. What is new in this is the perseverance that the non-violent protesters are endowed with to carry on with the struggle for citizens. That's, I'm again repeating this, that non-violence protesters, so far as the non-violent protesters are endowed with to carry on with the struggle persistently. Then try to understand that the most important thing is the non-violent movements are no longer confined to political regions only alone. They are a result of other factors that have necessitated the beginning of movements such as environmental, or religious, or even price hike related. The methods are varied, such as protests, marches, picketings, boycotts, civil disobedience, non-cooperations, strikes, sit-ins, hunger, hunger strikes, occupation of offices, or rejection of government positions, medals, awards, and so on. However, at the basic level, nonviolent struggles have three important components, namely nonviolent protests and prostitution, non-cooperation, and non-involvement intervention. Nonviolent struggles find more acceptance because they are ethical in nature. They considerably weaken the opponent's stance. They are relevant and effective. So far as our motherland is concerned, that you might have known, India, that is Bharata, which is the union of states. And in India, non-violent struggles are being taken up against the continual neglect of the farming community, economic policies favoring multinational companies, votaries of special economic zones, that is ACZ, that is special economic zones, for civil acquisition of fertile land of industrialization, environmental degradation, construction of big drum dams, resulting in displacement of people from their roots, inadequate compensation to the disabled. So far as the non-violent struggles and Mahatma Gandhi is concerned, we can find that Gandhiji is revered for his consistent advocacy for peace and non-violence from what began as a struggle against racial discrimination in South Africa. It grew manifolds into Satyagraha. So far as Satyagraha is concerned, which can prove effective, and the very fact that Gandhi could mobilize masses against the colonial rules through non-violence speaks volumes of the efficacy of the method of force. Gandhiji instilled a sense of rights and honor in the hearts of millions of Indians about their involvement of rules. It is because it had won them the coveted independence from the British rule. Taking a cue from Gandhi's inspiring approaches, luminaries like Martin Luther King Jr. succeeded in replicating nonviolence for espousing, that is, espousing the civil rights movement in America. Gandhiji instilled a sense of pride and honor in the hearts of millions of Indians about their involvement afterwards, about their non-violent afterwards. It is because it had won them the coveted independence from the British rule. Taking a cue from Gandhiji's inspiring approaches, luminaries like Martin Luther King Jr. succeeded in replicating nonviolence for espousing the civil rights movements in America. So thus, the involvement approach, initially used for gaining political freedom, is now being applied at all levels and for all unresolved issues. It has been undoubtedly successful in most of other cases. All these are fruits that violence survives any turmoil, oppression, or violent measures applied against masses. So, the nonviolent approach, initially used for gaining political freedom, is now being applied at all levels for all unresolved issues. It has been undoubtedly successful in most other cases. All these have proved that nonviolence survives any turmoil, oppression, or violent measures applied against masses. The course on nonviolent movements after Gandhi is an effort to uprise. So far as the importance and its objective and its utility is concerned, that it is an effort to uprise the learner of its efficacy, methods, dynamics, involves, and leadership patterns that help in making the approach a successful one. We helped up case studies from various sources. It enables the learner to know the nuances of the subject. So far as the so far as the chapter is concerned, that means in the block one, titled Introduced to Nonviolent Movements, consists of Unit 1 to Unit 4, that introduces the learner, that is the subject of nonviolence and the movements. So far as Unit 1 is concerned, that gives a general account of the background to the beginning of the nonviolent movements. It gives an idea of evolution of our nation in the post-independence era, when it tried to cope up with the gigantic tasks of nation building. My dear students, so far as block 1 is concerned, that is, I am discussing with you in nutshell that I am or you may understand. This is the highlights of the tests, what we are going to discuss. And your participation is more important. We have to understand what are the basic causes so far as the non-violent approach is concerned. You have to understand the needs and the importance of non-violent issues so far as our present political, social scenario is concerned, and how can we be able to resolve the conflicts. So, my dear students, we should attend this class more and more and suggest your feelings and participate in the discussion and ask questions to clear your doubts, by which you may be able to understand the relevance of this topic. So, in this text, so far as Unit 2 is concerned, we have to examine the leadership and organizational patterns that constitute non-violent movements. And so far as the Unity 3 is concerned, we have to understand the length with the dynamics, strategies, hello, my dear students. Please try to join in the class. Sartavu, Block 3 is concerned, titled as Environmental Issues. And you can understand one thing that examines one of the most crucial issues of the today's world, ecology and environment for meeting basic human requirements. So far as the natural resources are concerned, we can understand one thing that how natural resources are being thoroughly exploited and even injudiciously, which is extracted to meet the grids and not the needs of our population. The government's favorable tilt towards multinational companies and its efforts to compete in a global economic system have led to a restructuring of our economic policies and priorities, putting the national environment at an unprecedented risk. And try to understand, so far as the block 2 is concerned, you can understand one thing. Actually, that's re-articulation and social movements. These are traces as the movements as Odhan movements, total revolution, or Sampurna Kranti. And even if that is prohibition and farmers' movements, these are the movements which have been seeking to draw attention to different issues which are contentious so far as today's world is concerned. The issues of land reforms, corruption in governmental and bureaucratic system that need an overhaul, issues related to provision that have been ruining the farm development and the issues relating to the farmers, to producers of food grains and human survival. That means we have to understand one thing, that that means these problems and these issues are to continue to remain unresolved despite numerous struggles to mitigate them. These issues are re-articulated in today's concept. Try to understand one thing, so far as this topic is concerned, whenever we are talking about the environmental issues, at that time we have to think about Chipko movement, which is considered one of the first environmental movements in India. And in this test, even if we can understand and we can examine the issues of displacement due to the large dam constructions and the social, economic, and ecologically fallouts of such projects. And even if you can understand one thing, that in this block 2 and block 3, that means one thing is very important, that the efforts to save the Silent Valley, a rich natural capital area that was on the verge of being exploited for a hydroelectric project. Lastly, so far as the block 3 is concerned, that means we can understand or we can examine the struggles of local community in its fights to retain and restore the right of water and its struggle against a multinational company. And so far as the global non-violent movements in block 4 is concerned, my dear students, you may able to get sufficient knowledge regarding that a host of hunting issues like civil rights movements in America, Greenpeace movements in Europe, and anti-apartheid movements in South Africa, and solidarity movements in Poland. And the American civil rights movements, which are mostly related to the rights of pertaining to African Americans. So as we know this in detail, there are other movements which different communities have come out with for gaining legitimate rights, that we can understand the environmental issues which have been prominent all over the world. And the Greenpeace International in undertaking massive efforts to raise awareness levels of people across the world. So the anti-apartheid movement, which has brought forward such luminaries as Nelson Mandela, and we can understand that Archbishop Desmond Tutu is one of the long-standing movements of the people against discriminatory policies of the white rulers regime. The solidarity movements that initially started as a labor struggle snowballs into a moment of significant for Poland. The non-violent struggle ended long pending issues and heralded a new regime, that is, new regime in the Poland. And we can understand another thing is here, that is that we can make a case studies that reflect the subject to a certain extent. Learners, please, my dear students, you are requested to refer to further sources as given in the list of struggles reading at the end of this book. So try to understand one thing, that the important thing is here, so far as our motherland is concerned, that India after Gandhiji represents in the realization of, so far as Gandhi's concept of India, which has been signified of villages, republics, comprising of self-reliant, democratic local communities committed to the ideal of the minimization of wants. However, when after independence, Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of our country, and he declared India's trust with the destiny, and this trust was to create a totally new India model upon the industrial civilization which Gandhiji had condemned in Hindu Swaraj. In translating his vision of India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru progressively undermines what Gandhi had envisioned about the reconstruction of the Indian society after the base of Indian civilization, which was dismantled by the British rulers. The realization of the Nehruvian vision of India was, however, beset with a set three major problems that were carrying out of for solution, that is ethnic and social divisions, extreme economic disparities, regional differences, and imbalance, multitudinous languages, and existence of states. All these problems kept, so Nehru thought India socially, culturally, and politically fragmented and nourished and reinforced local and regional varieties. As such, integration of diverse people and unification of political purpose were the sine qua non of forging oneness. And, the, and here you can find another problem is here, that was to evolve a political system that could ensure unity of political purpose and its realization in a concerted manner. So try to understand one thing is here, my dear students, the creation of such political system was necessary in a view of problems of social and also economic backwardness that India suffered. We can understand here that lower mortality rates, illiteracy, backward economy, low agricultural productivity kept Indian people extremely poor, and health services were conspicuous by their absence. The third problem we may understand here, that pertain to social and economic reforms India has to tackle successfully. to realize the vision of a new India. And here we can get solution. What is the solution? The solution of these problems was urgent and required a strategy of development with a view of, that means view to embarking upon a beneficial growth, that is a trajectory. Resultantly, India had to set its whole socio-cultural graph and emerge as a modern political entity for action in history. So another thing is here, that means the national reconstruction for promoting a new pattern of social life and relations means realignment of the past and its socio-economic institutional arrangements and the initiation of the process of radical change in the economy by introducing new thought ways and work ways to give a fillip to modernity without disturbing the existing equilibrium. Given this system goals, so far as whenever we are given these systemic goals, certain questions relating to the character and the functioning of the newly created institutions, political, social, and economic, in the last 6 decades arise. So we have to understand that means the aims and objective so far as the first unity of block 1 is concerned, that is the different facts of Indian polity, and we have to understand and we have to assess its achievements, shortfalls, then vulnerabilities and problems. Then, last but not the least, we have to evaluate its performance as a political unity acting in history. Last but not the least, whenever we are thinking about Mahatma Gandhi and his role so far as non-violence is concerned, if you open the pages of history, you can find one thing that Gandhi has written in Young India about God. There he has given the composition of God, that God is the composition of truth and non-violence. So he speaks, whenever I search God in non-violence, truth speaks, find out through me. When he searches God in truth, non-violence speaks, found it through me. That means try to understand one thing. Gandhi speaks, non-violence and truth are contradictory each other. Without truth, there is no existence of God, or without non-violence, there is no existence of God. That means truth and non-violence, whenever mixed each other, then then God comes. So God can be realized through these two things. So God exists everywhere, and God is happy whenever there is a nature of truthfulness and non-violent means, so far as the action of individuals. In this way, we have to understand the political structure and its working. That means Gandhi speaks. If the political structure will be followed by ideal things, automatically it will be always acceptable.